honestly, from my experience with you, Tom, I think nothing in Nebraska makes sense, to be honest.
This one is from New Jersey, though. This is the thing that surprises me. It's spreading. Whatever disease we have in
Exactly.
spreading.
Yeah.
The anti-democracy disease, or I call it the Kim Jong-un experience.
Okay, so we're set up with the live streaming. Yeah, were you? Sorry, Dan, were you expecting to find democracy anywhere else besides Citizen Assembly or the International Logic Party? I mean,
I have found it in the Green Party also.
huh.
So I was kind of hoping that I would find democracy elsewhere, but you're right. Only here and the Green Party so far, I have found people willing to stand up for democracy.
Well, you must have dug into some of the last final reserves that they had, because I was just getting censored by the Green Party the other day. So,
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, they don't like free speech. But anyway, speaking of free speech, we should start out this meeting by reading our opening notes to make sure that everybody is aware that here you have real free speech, and only here. Okay, give me 1 second. I just want to share my my screen. Would somebody like to volunteer to read the opening notes for us, please? Lois, you were the first one. And I was expecting more people here. I don't know if they're showing up late. We did have quite a bit of people RSVP through the various groups. So I don't know what's going on. They might be dropping in later. But so just, we should be ready for that. Okay, take it away, Lois, please.
Thank you, I will. Citizen Assembly opening notes. 1, we maintain the right to freedom of speech. This does not include hate speech or threats of violence. 2, be mindful of everyone's time. You will have more than one chance to speak. Time limits may be imposed. 3, as individuals, we are partial. As a group, we are impartial. We are here to develop our own philosophies and to assist one another in doing so. 4, we are here to do politics, not to comment on politicians doing politics. Take a stand for ideas, not faces. 5, this community is what you make it. Criticism is cheap. What we want is better ideas. Speak up. 6, focus on advancing your best ideas, not on winning every argument. Be strategic. 7, to be presentable, an idea must be written as a plain text document, published for others to see, and copyleft for others to use. We use agora-ilp.org to conveniently and efficiently share our ideas. 8, we follow a specific format. The presenter presents an idea, 11 minutes maximum. We measure the agreement with the idea, quick show of hands. We measure the support in Agora for that idea, quick show of hands. We deliberate in strict order of claimed turns, raised hands. We conclude with uninterrupted closing remarks by each participant. 9, respect your host. Citizen Assembly Network is inclusive of everyone, but the host of any particular meeting has the right to dismiss any participant whom they are unable to handle. 10, we need leaders to organize more meetings. We will help you. We are here to empower one another. 11, help us grow. Share our meeting information on social media to make democracy available to others. 12, help us help you. Use the chat to share any information and resources that you think are important. 13, make connections with other participants. Some of us stay after the meeting to socialize and to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Lois. Lois, do you want to continue with the introductions? Running us through those?
Okay, well, I will start. My name is Lois Diggs. My nation is the United States of America. My main interests as a thinker are the history and future of religion. My main concern as an activist is, well, I haven't. Oh, Abdullah's here. One of my main concerns as an activist is redeeming femininity in our culture in the wake of feminism. So let's see, Ramses, would you like to go next?
Sure, Missy Lois. My name is Ramses. I'm joining from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. My main interests as a thinker are logic, case, and my main concern as an activist is human rights, especially in third world countries.
Thank you very much, Ramses. Tom Robinson, will you please introduce yourself?
Certainly. My name's Tom Robinson. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, USA. And let's see, main interest as a thinker. Well, I think a lot about democracy and politics, and I'm an activist in pretty much 4 causes: 2 in the democracy area, ranked choice voting, and the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And my passion issues are universal basic income and universal health care. That'll do it.
Thank you very much, Tom. Benjamin Small, would you like to go next?
Okay, my name is Ben. I'm from Canada, and my interests as a thinker would be truth and as an activist, egalitarianism.
Thank you very much, Ben. I am also concerned with truth. Cesare, introduce yourself, please.
Cesare Jurevich from USA, residing around Chicago, Illinois. And my main concern as an activist, well, my main interest as a thinker, that's ethics and economics. Main concerns as an activist, that's animal liberation and social and economic justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Heron Stone, will you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm a member of the tribe of the Colorado River, and my main interests are language and the relationship between language and the way we think and evaluate our sensory data. And democracy is something I think we're not ready for in some sense, because we elected Donald Trump with democracy because we have an illiterate, uneducated population who can't think properly. So I'm interested in straightening up our abilities to think.
Thank you very much, Heron Stone. Good luck with that work. Daniel, will you please introduce yourself?
Hey, y'all. Daniel here in Thousand Oaks, California, also known as the Cayugas Creek watershed, which I guess is a subset of the Colorado River tribe. Everyone should know their watershed because this is a water planet and we're made of water. And oh my God. And it's going to be free pizza every May 22nd if we get this thing right. Bitcoin Pizza Day coming up, 23 days left. Global Pizza Party. Pizza free forever. Pizzas.com. Check it out. It's I think the perma trail is going to be the pizza trail pretty soon. Too excited about pizza, and yeah, get into ham radio. I'm KK6VDR. 100 watt max output power. So it's a great hobby and good for the world. Who knows? Okay, yield the floor.
Thank you, Daniel. Abdul, will you please introduce?
unmute.
Yeah, my name is Alassane Abdrazak. You can call me Abdul from Ghana. I am an activist and I am very much interested in good governance. And good governance, I believe it comes with egalitarianism, it comes with good health service, good education, good social capital, and less crime and unity and the overall development of people. I yield the floor.
Thank you very much. All right, I think that's everyone. Back to the host of tonight's meeting. Cesare?
Thank you, Lois. Okay, so actually I'm a little bit annoyed because I thought we would have had more people here because we were kind of planning the scheduling of the meeting to make more time for more people to have a chance to introduce themselves. So now we have a lot of time. And the people that we have here right now have been here before. And Ramses is here to present, ready to open up a breakout room to present the technology that we use in our meetings in order to effectively share and organize around ideas. But at the same time, we do have people who have been here before. So Ramses, I'll let you pitch that in just a second. The one main thing I would like to just summarize it is that we use the Agora networking platform for everyone to develop their own political philosophy out of various ideas, to then integrate all of those ideas and show what the people want together, and to create candidates who represent actually, according to that, who actually represent the will of the people. So we are here to discuss the various ideas that exist within Agora, but not necessarily. Those ideas can also, if you don't want to use Agora, you don't have to. It's just, it is easier, it is more efficient that way, tremendously more efficient. So if you'd like a presentation of Agora, Ramses will take that away in a moment. For today's meeting, we have scheduled one specific topic. It's an idea that I have written in the Agora community, in the Shaping Culture Agora community. And the idea is called Recipe for a Multicultural Society. So just some ideas about how to actually go about creating a multicultural society. Now, if we have other people who would also like to present today, if they wanted to call for their breakout room, that is always an option. You're always, if you want to try to hijack the meeting, we make that possible for you. So of course, we might have 2 consecutive meetings happening at the same time. Maybe some people want to discuss one topic, other people want to discuss a different topic. But so that is an option. So if somebody has a specific idea that they would like to present, that's an option. One other thing to consider is that we might be able to have time in this meeting. Maybe we'll get done discussing this idea early. So if somebody has a small idea, maybe we might be able to fit that in towards the tail end of this meeting. So that's always an option.
Scheduled for.
Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah, how long is this meeting scheduled for?
We have about an hour and 20 minutes until closing remarks. We shoot for 2 hours, and in the last 20 minutes, we do closing remarks to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak if they didn't speak previously. So that's what we do at the end. Of course, one doesn't have to stay for the full meeting if they don't want to. That's always an option if somebody has to leave early, although we prefer that people actually participate in the full process. So if anyone would like to present an idea today, please take a moment to think about it. Ramses, do you want to just say your part? And we also are joined by NB, but take it away. Tell us, what you want to do.
Well, since we have time, actually, I can present Agora quickly here in the main room. You think is that okay? I created breakout rooms anyways, if anyone wants side discussions. And today, since we have Heron and we have a Note PM, and we have Ben. Ben already knows Agora, but it's okay to, it's okay. Okay, then that would be great just to go again over the introduction.
I have a specific question.
Yeah, sure, Ben.
How does this voting in Agora work, and what is it? How does it handle context?
Yeah, so let's. You know what? So I will just introduce Agora to Heron and other people now, and then Sadai will answer that question. Yeah, because there is no voting in Agora, but there is another substitute process. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so you guys, to let you know, since we hate Facebook, and since there's no real platform to allow us to share ideas with other people, we created Agora in order to achieve this goal, which is writing ideas, publish them, and share them with people. So it is like a repository of ideas, okay? So let me share my screen and show you quickly how it looks like. So if you go to agora-ilp.org, this is the main page, okay? It calls itself the worldwide stock market of ideas. You click on enter, login, and this is a homepage which shows you how many people are there by nation. And nation is what you associate yourself with. It is not what your passport is issued from. If I go to my main ideological profile here, this is like your Facebook profile, but it represents your ideology, okay? So it consists of ideas that you support, and you are really willing, to sacrifice your sexual organs in order to achieve these ideas or achieve what they are calling for. Okay, so these are, for example, ideas that I support. Number 23 is very special here. You have up to 23 ideas to support, ranked by how important they are to you. Each idea also has IDI points, which actually is a summation of how many people support this idea and the rankings that they give to the ideas. So for example, this one, which is about university education, has 4 supporters and total sum of 64 points, and so on. If I click on an idea, for example, here, it opens up a page having the text of the idea, and this is the ranking I'm giving for the idea. These are supporters. You can comment, and you can debate ideas, and you can reply to comments. And also you can invite the idea to the people that you follow as well. Okay, so when you invite people, it simply sends an email to the invitee. Here you can also search people. You can add them to your followee list. Indexes, actually, this is gonna be changed and be called ideas. Here you can explore different ideas on the platform. For instance, this page allows you to search ideas by dominance. And as I said before, the IDI, which is the Idea Dominance Index, represents a summation of support from all people who support this idea. If someone is giving it a priority of 20, another one is giving it a priority of 19, then you have 39, and so on. And the most supported idea on the platform right now is unfortunately universal basic income. You can also explore ideas by popularity, how many supporters for ideas. We have a page for meetings and scheduling, and for campaigns. This is related to Ben's question, so I will let Sadai answer that after we are done. And of course, information gives you information. And as you see here, guys, we have 3 agoras, okay? The main one here, which is a universal one. Municipal is associated with your municipality, and community is actually a collection of communities where you have ideological profile associated with each community. For instance, stories we should all hear. Here's the ideas that I support from this community, and so on. Finally, I just would like to show you my inbox. This is what happens when someone invites me to examine an idea. Okay, here, for instance, someone is spamming my inbox. So let's open, for example, the first one here. This is an idea that he invites you to support, you know, or to give them a specific response. And now I will let you, Sazahi, take the lead. Thank you, guys.
Oh, so I think if I understand Benjamin's question correctly, actually, could you restate it? Because I'm.
Yeah. So it strikes. It's an interesting. Like I think I like the system, but one of the things that strikes me as missing is context. So I don't know if that's something you. How does that work? Like, because some ideas are good under certain context and absolutely terrible under other context.
If there is an idea, if an idea is good, you can adopt it as your own. If you think you can make it better or offer a better idea, then you can introduce it. If that means taking an idea that's missing context and adding context to it, that's a way to make it better. So because certain ideas are pretty easy to understand for some people, but then again, you show that to another person and that person will be like, what is this talking about? So, you know, it varies. Each person, I mean, we actually develop the context for these ideas in our citizen assemblies. These meetings are actually how because it is about interpreting these bits of information within a larger context. And that's really the culture that we are creating here. The culture of communication, learning. This is where we actually elaborate on what these ideas mean. And so it's all a part of a bigger picture.
I've got a question. Is it appropriate to ask a question here at this time?
No, but go ahead.
Well, I'm just curious about when you use the word democracy, are you talking about representative democracy or direct democracy?
That's a very complicated question. I'd be happy to answer it after the meeting is over. It's a complicated question. So but definitely, let's talk about it. It's just, but we do have a program to go with, and you know, people are. So, and we can also talk about it. You know, I can share my email in the chat, so you can reach out to me later, or you can find me in Igora. My phone number is there too. So, anyways, real quick, I want to come back to my first question. Is there anyone else who has an idea that they want to present today? Are there any other presenters with any specific ideas? Going once, going twice.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about language and how we can clean up our language so we can be more intelligent human beings, if anybody's interested in that subject.
That is very interesting. The only requirements are that it is written in plain text, that is published somewhere for other people to use, and that is copyleft. So do you have a written idea?
I've got a sort of summary, but it's got too much stuff in it. So no, I don't. Not ready in that format. So never mind.
Let's get you ready for the next meeting. Maybe, well, actually, next meeting, Ramses is presenting a specific idea, but possibly the week after that, we can give you the floor and we can
And the problem is I'm really interested in this idea, Heron. So now I don't know what to do.
Ramses, you're out of order. Anyway, no, seriously, this is all a part of a much bigger process. So let's, we keep coming back here regularly. We're looking for more ideas, more speakers who are willing to take the lead. So please, let's get something good worked out so that we can actually share it and make it easy for other people to use and share with others. That's what we're trying to do here. Anyways, so for the sake of demonstrating that point, I would like to start by presenting the idea for today's discussion. And let me see here, this idea. So as Ramses was saying, there are actually several agoras. One of them is a community agora. The idea that I'd like to present today is a part of the shaping culture community. We don't need politicians for any of this. These are ideas that we can just implement in our daily lives and how we interact with one another. So this community is really fascinating to me, and the ideas that can be created within it and shared. So this is the idea, and I'm going to start out by reading this idea for all of you. Actually, I will also share this idea in the chat. Let me just get a link for this here. Actually, if somebody else could pull this up and put that, no, you know what? I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to put it in the chat. And why? And back to screen sharing. Okay, recipe for a multicultural society. We must recognize that different cultures, well, this is 1.1. We must recognize that different cultures are more or less suitable to different people based on their psychological dispositions. For example, some people prefer a family-oriented culture while others prefer a culture of sexual promiscuity, and they are equally happy functioning in a culture that suits their preferences. In a multicultural society, we must tolerate those differences and find ways to function within the diversity they create. Point 2, children should not be seen and used by their parents as tools of perpetuating their own culture. If a culture has value, it should be able to persist in society on its own merits, or else it should rightly disappear from practice. For example, children being raised in one culture should have exposure to other cultures so that they can freely find the culture that best fits them. If the parents are not happy with this arrangement, this is a telltale sign of the flaws and weaknesses of their own culture. Point 3. A culture should apply its standards only to its own members, not to members of other cultures. For example, while it may be unacceptable of the practitioners of Islam to create graphic representations of their prophets and sacred entities, this standard applies only to the practitioners of Islam, and they must be willing to tolerate the freedoms of others. That's the idea. And the next thing what we want to do is to see how the room feels about this idea with a general question about agreement. So if you agree with this idea, we're going to ask you to just raise your hand to just show. If you're kind of like in favor, you can do something like this if you like some parts of it. So who agrees with this idea? Quick show of hands, please. That's myself, Ramses, Abdul, we have Tang. Anyone else? 60% from Daniel. All right, very interesting. Okay, so we kind of know how people feel in here. The second step I'd like to see is who is a supporter of this idea in Igora, who has this idea in their ideological profile, or who intends to add this idea to their ideological profile. A quick show of hands, please. So who are the supporters or to-be supporters of this idea? Okay, looks like just me. For now. Anyone else? Did I miss somebody? Well, anyways, let's discuss this idea. The floor is open. I always have a lot to say about the ideas I present, but I want other people to have the chance to speak. And my co-hosts Ramses and Lois will be helping us moderate to make sure we have a fair discussion, and we have other co-hosts too. Okay. Oh yeah, and let's please use the chat. Please write hand up in the chat in all capitals so we can see whose turn it is. It is the easiest way to keep track of the turn order because the hand up features don't work all that well in Zoom. And we have the first hand up from Ramses. Ramses, you have the floor.
Well, there is another alternative name or title for this idea. It's actually how to be like Canada. So Canada is really multicultural, and I think we are very successful at this. However, I just have a quick comment about point 3. Unfortunately, Muslims or many Muslims are not willing to accept the fact that drawing prophet photos or whatever pictures for the prophet is something that should be accepted on a cultural level. And you can just go to Wikipedia page of Muhammad, just type Muhammad on Wikipedia, and then go to the talk page. And you will find, like, this is one of the articles that I have never seen a big archive for talks about it like this before. Many Muslims are just posting, they're condemning of some of the drawings of the prophet, although these drawings have been done by other Muslims, but these are Sunnah and these are Shia and, all this kind of stuff. In my opinion, in order to accept multiculturalism, we have to change or ask Muslims to change some parts of their religion or what is their teachings in general, because it contradicts with multiculturalism and it only promotes a Muslim-based society, not a society where Muslims, Christians, Jewish, and other people are living together in peace. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ramses. We have the next hand up from Benjamin.
So I don't necessarily disagree with anything here on its own, but the problem is that it's conflating all of these different issues into one thing that I have to vote on, and they are different issues. So that makes it more complicated. And in addition to that, it's a biased and inherently biased because it's only listing Muslims, whereas all religions have their own little problems. So just by the fact that it's isolating out this one group, that's biased.
You're welcome, everybody. Okay, let's see who has the floor next. Abdul, please, you have the floor.
This whole idea about Muslims not wanting to see pictorial representation of the prophet and drawing and sketching and all that. It is not because they don't want to do it, but it is something that that they are afraid of. It is something that they are trying to prevent. You see, from Islamic history of after the creation of man, and Islam is all about monotheism, worshiping one God and one deity. But the devil manages to mislead men in so many ways. And some of the ways the devil used to mislead men from the beginning of man. I think that's the first progeny of Adam. was using music and status. I mean, like when somebody is dead and then they build the person, and then in the history it says first the devil comes and he tells them, these people, they were good people, and now that they are dead, why don't you build statues to represent them? Why don't you build them, or why don't you sketch them, so that whenever you see the statue, it will remind you that these are good people, and then you begin to do good. So the people were doing the good, and they kept doing it, and then after their generation went on, a new generation came, and then the devil came back and told them that, you see these statues, your forefather used to worship them, so you should do the same thing. And so the devil misled people, and now people started worshiping idols, worshiping statues. You understand? And then when you come to Christianity, like it's part of the pillars of Islam. You cannot call yourself a Muslim if you don't believe in Jesus Christ. But you don't believe in Jesus Christ as a God or as a son of God. You believe in him as what? A messenger of God. You get that? And the reason why Muslims and even the Prophet himself mentioned that nobody should write his picture, should sketch him or draw him or anything of that sort, is because he doesn't want people to take his pictures and worship him like they worship Jesus Christ, and like the way they put the pictures of Jesus Christ in churches, or the pictures of Mary in churches, and then in front of them worshiping and all that. That is what Muslims are trying to prevent, because once you worship God through something else, it's no more Islam, it's something else. Islam is based on monotheism, worshiping only one deity, worshiping only one God. So Muslims are not condoning and welcoming the issue of portraying pictures of the messenger, not because they don't like it or because it is bad, but it is because they are afraid that if people are allowed to try to draw him or to form some pictures about him, the generations to come may also forget and worship him and refer to him as God or as son of God or as an angel or whatever. Just like the way some Christians do worship Jesus as son of God or refer to him as God and his mother. That is what Muslims are trying to prevent. And even the Prophet himself, he mentioned it. That is why he said that whenever they mention his name, they should include that he is a slave of God. He is a slave, a servant of God. He personally asked that whenever he is mentioned, they should add that he is a slave of God, so that people know that he is not a son of God, he is not an angel, he is not close to God, but he is a slave of God, just like every one of us else. So and sometimes in a certain culture, when they tell you that this thing is bad, like in Africa, you come here and we tell you this is a shrine, you don't go there to defecate. That is our cultural belief, and you think that the cultural belief is oppressive. It is so ignorant, and it is some way that you think it is against your personal right. You have the right to defecate where you want to. So if you go and defecate, the people believe that when you do that, when you go and defecate in the shrine, there's going to be a calamity that will befall the whole community. So because of that, the people would not allow you. They wouldn't want you to do that, because they believe that if you do that, a punishment will come from the gods. So it is the same way the Muslims do believe. When you make pictorial representation of the Prophet and all that, it can lead to what? Some kind of punishment from God, and then the whole mankind will have to perish. It is not going to be like, oh, it is only Muslims or it is only Christians or those who made the picture. Everybody is going to be punished for that. So I think that is the whole scenario about not allowing pictures of the Prophet, or stopping that. It's just that they are afraid that people might worship him as God or as an angel or as whatever, and that shouldn't be the case. He's an individual just like any of us, but he is special. He is special. He is the best human being to ever exist. I yield the floor.
I think I am next, unless I'm, yeah. So let me address what Abdul was saying first. So I'm familiar with that and that whole reasoning, but that sounds like a personal problem for Muslims. Like, I don't see what that has anything to do with other people. So, you know, those are standards that that culture can impose upon itself and people who wish to continue being a part of that culture, but that has nothing to do with other people. Uh, of course, if they're, unless they're living in a, what do they call it, a caliphate or something. But then again, I don't think it's a good idea for us to have theocracies. So I think we should have democracies everywhere. So it just seems like a cultural thing. Like if the Muslims are concerned about worshiping the statues instead of whatever else that they're supposed to be doing, well, then don't make those statues. But other people, well, that's their thing. That's called freedom in a free society, and a multicultural society has to have freedom. I wanted to also address the, yeah, because without freedom, it just becomes a single culture society, a totalitarian society. I wanted to address Benjamin's point. Yeah, I mean, sure, that's one specific example. That's the one specific example that I'm most familiar with. But if you have other examples, I'd love to hear you provide them so we can perhaps include them in this idea. Or maybe
Yeah, I thought you said you were going to address what I said. I didn't hear that. Can you reiterate what you said? Repeat what you said.
Yeah, I'll repeat it in just a second. But so what I was saying is, Benjamin, yeah, if you have other examples to kind of paint a more colorful picture, that would be nice. Yeah, I wonder what other examples are. But then again, maybe there aren't. Maybe there aren't any as significant examples as that one. And so yeah, back to what Abdul was saying. I was just saying that's a standard that for Muslims to impose upon themselves. It has nothing to do with other people in other cultures. So because there's been a lot of violence around the world, a lot of threats about people creating pictures of Muslim prophets. Well, that's their freedom, and a free society, that is their freedom. And Muslims have to deal with that. You know, it's just, don't worship the idols that other people create. Just don't do it. Yeah. So yeah, I yield the floor. And who's next? We have JK. JK is next.
Hi, sorry, I am a little bit lost. I joined late, so my assumption is like it was on multicultural, right? But then when I joined, like it turned out to be like a religious discussion. So I'm trying to understand the context as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. These are my first thoughts. Culture is different from religion. So across the world, religions are fanatics. Any religion, right? Whether it's Christianity or Islam, or I consider like the Hinduism is not a religion, but let's keep that. Like even Hinduism or Buddhism. Like again, Buddhism is it's not a religion, it's an atheist point of view. Buddha was like against gods, and he doesn't believe. Like it is a philosophy, and that's a different topic. So anything like that is being forced into the culture of the people, then it gets diluted and it gets corrupted, and the religious people seek more power because they want to control people. That's basically what happens. And the concept of multiculturalism is kind of a typical example of Indian subcontinent, I would say, where all the religions evolved, and even Christianity and Islam tried to invade and convert, they miserably failed. That's how I see this. So culture has nothing to do with religion. That's my take. And I will wrap it up. And anyone has any thoughts, maybe I will assemble my thoughts at a later time. Thank you.
Ramses is next. Thank you.
Yes, so I want to clear up some points to you guys. So first of all, this is a free forum. Like we discuss whatever we discuss, and feel free to take the context of the discussion to wherever you want, okay? As long as we are discussing things that are related to the main topic, which is multiculturalism. The reason why we are talking about religion is that, as I said before, it is an obstacle against multiculturalism. Okay, so what we are talking about here is that some religions actually have teachings that contradict with the idea of multiculturalism. And this actually makes like a logical contradiction when you say, I support multiculturalism, but I will give Muslims all their freedoms, for example. So this is a contradiction. And Ben, I think anyone can write anything that they want. This is the freedom of expression. If I'm targeting Islam because it has problems, I have the right to target Islam under any title, okay? And we don't control what people present. You know, I don't control what other people want to write or what they do, right? But if I disagree with them, I will simply let them know that I disagree with you and I have a better idea. And here is my better idea on Agora. And I'm very sure that it's gonna get more supporters. You know what I mean? And we should also expect that this forum is for everybody. Like, expect to find people that disagree with you, especially when it comes to a sensitive topic like religion and its relationship with freedom and multiculturalism. So we are here to discuss and debate, not to control each other and say, hey, you cannot say that, or this is not politically correct, or whatever. Okay. And finally, Abdul, like, I really understand what you have said, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you have explained. But this is your own belief. Okay, this is not what everyone believes in. And this is the point of multiculturalism, is that you understand that your beliefs are for yourself. You cannot use them in order to control what people do, or to give an argument, you know, or a reason for controlling people and saying, yeah, we are trying to not allow this because it leads to XYZ based on your belief. Okay, so this is the thing about multiculturalism. And just a correction, small correction. There is nothing in the Holy Quran that prohibits picturing Muhammad or drawing him or making statues or whatever. It all came from the Abbasid era, okay? And you know that all the hadith was actually written in Abbasid. It was never written before, I guess, 150 years after the death of the Prophet. So what we are talking about here is it's okay to accept multiculturalism, but you have to put a stop to people who are trying to control other cultures based on their religious beliefs. I use the floor, thanks.
Thank you, Ramses. We have Tang next. You have the floor, Tang.
Okay. I come from Singapore, and there are 60% Chinese who are mostly Buddhist. There are 14% Muslims who are Malay people. So, and then about 7% Indians who are Hindus, and the rest are Christians. So there are 4 religions in Singapore: Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, and Christianity. In the 1960s and 50s, 1950s and 60s, there were racial riots. The races were fighting each other. People were getting killed. And there was no peace, there was no stability. However, a new government took leadership and came into power and united the four races with a policy of multiculturalism and religious harmony. So it started from the schools. So children were educated together. The Christian children, the Hindu children, the Buddhist children, the Muslim children were educated together since the age of 4. So I grew up learning the songs from all religion and the songs for all races. I could sing them even when I grew up. And in housing, we were put together to live next to each other so that we can get along with each other. And then in terms of festival, we celebrate each other's festival. If there's a Muslim festival, the Chinese, the Hindu, the Christians get the holidays as well. So there has been stability and relative peace for the last 60 years. And the economy grew and everybody enjoyed the benefits.
Is that a 10?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I think I'm next. I want to share my screen for this to come back to this point in case some things are not clear. The essential clause in this idea is right here. This is the essential clause. The example there is, it's auxiliary, but a culture, and this is if you want a multicultural society, a culture should apply its standards only to its own members, not to members of other cultures. That's really, it's as simple as that. And I mean, I'd like to see a quick show of hands of whether people agree, just with this clause alone, especially that Benjamin was making a point that there are too many things here. I have more to say, but it's just a quick show of hands. Who agrees with that clause that a culture should only apply its standards to other? Okay, so we are, apparently it's still too controversial for Ben, but we are getting quite a bit of agreement. But okay, I just wanted to do that real quick. And let me just continue with this. I really appreciate what Tang was saying. Here in this portion, we're saying children should not be seen and used by their parents as tools of perpetuating their own culture. If a culture has value, then it should be able to persist on its own merits. This example here, for example, children being raised in one culture should have exposure to other cultures. So this is not saying that children should not be raised in the culture of their parents. I mean, obviously they will be, they have to be. Otherwise they end up having no culture. Like the culture is useful. It's really a download of all kinds of useful information. The point is that, and so children get that simply by existing within that culture. But the point is that if the culture has flaws, and if there are solutions and better ways of doing things in other cultures, children should have exposure to that. And I really like what they're doing in Singapore. It also facilitates that, reduces that tension among cultures and religions. And just to clarify, I would subcategorize religion as a culture. There's so many aspects to religion that are actually part of like cultural practices. So culture can be bigger than just religion. There's a lot of overlap. It's extensively overlapped. And yeah, and one other thing, it just occurred to me, I know Ben is to speak next, but I was thinking of other examples of particular cultures imposing their own standards on other cultures. One other good example of that is clothing. Actually, people who are in favor of clothing impose their standards of clothing onto people who would prefer to be nude. But I don't think that it's just because of, and actually we should, so first of all, free the nipple. I think women should be able to walk around topless just like men can, if they want to. It's not to say that women should, because sometimes it's really not a good idea to walk around topless around some people. But just the point is that you should have that freedom. But I think it really has more to do with hygiene in modern society. Like, I don't want completely naked people to riding the bus, you know, in the city. I mean, no, just put freaking clothes on. It's the rule. It's just because you might be dirty, and I just don't want to be sitting on seats where your naked butt without properly wiping was sitting. So yeah, so there are good reasons for that besides just cultural impositions. It's just practical and hygiene. But yeah, but I'm still trying to think of other examples. So that's the reason why I wouldn't necessarily include that, is because it's not just culture, it's about practicality. But okay, I yield the floor, and we have Ben next.
So looking at that specific statement there, a culture should apply its standards only to its own members, not to members of other cultures. So that alone is more agreeable to me. It's still kind of confusing though, because like you're saying this as whatever culture you have, but in saying that, as say you're a Christian, then you're doing it yourself. You're saying, okay, this culture should apply its standards to only these people. So you're saying what this culture can or cannot do. You're saying, oh, this culture can't do this. It can't apply standards, whatever that means. Like, do you have a standard of like what this should look like, or it's really vague. I mean, I think I get the general idea, but I don't find it really useful for anything in particular. It's just not the most useful idea, I don't find. And besides that, you have the problem is you're adding in all this other stuff here, like children, the relationship between children and parents. And then you have also recognizing that cultures are suitable to different people, which is something else entirely. So like, it's just really confusing. And the way it's set up is just going to create problems. If you want to have an idea like this, we're just going to go on and on and on about it and get nowhere, because it's so vague in what it means, and it's so much stuff conflated into one thing. The bias also, in terms of that Muslim example, if you add in those other examples like nudity or something, then that would fix that.
We have Ramses with her hand up, and then Abdul is after that, and I'm putting my hand up after that. Ramses, take it away. You have the floor.
Okay, so no, I find the idea very useful and very important. I really invite you to travel to Iran, for example, or go to Afghanistan and ask them where Taliban is, and go and live among them, and you are gonna feel it. You are gonna know what we are talking about here and why it is important. And again, like if I'm writing up an idea, I'm not required to list all the examples in the world in order to make it politically correct. Okay, I find it weird that you guys cannot see why Islam is the biggest problem here when it comes to multiculturalism, because it is the most restrictive religion of them. Okay, and talking about Islam doesn't mean that, for example, I am like advocating Christianity or whatever. This is actually the biased thinking when you make implications out of nothing. Okay, Islam has problems, and we are talking about it here. Christianity has problems as well. Okay, and all religions and everything in the world have problems. But what we are talking about here is how to apply multiculturalism and what things that we need to consider. Finally, I think it's because NB is saying that it should be more accurate and you should list your resources when you talk about religion. So I think the religion is just like any other thing. Okay, so we're talking about it like any other topic. And I have been accurate. I listed my resources. I said what is in the Holy Quran, what is in Hadith, what is believed by Sunnah, what is believed by Shia, which groups accept this and which groups do not accept this. Okay, and I came from a cosmopolitan city, by the way, Tang, where there are a lot of Muslims and Coptic Christians living together and celebrating Ramadan together and blah, blah, blah. This happens, and people, I'm not saying that people are evil. I'm here, I am criticizing specific parts of Islam, specific teachings, okay? And there are stupid people that actually make use of these teachings in order to control others. So, for example, when they see the harmony between Muslims and Coptic Christians in Egypt, for example, they come up and say, hey, you are not allowed to celebrate their feasts, or even to say happy Easter, for example. This is considered prohibited or haram, and you are going to be fucked in hell, just like all women who do not wear hijab. Can you see how stupid and how serious the problem is here? It's about not accepting difference, and multiculturalism is actually about accepting difference. That's it for me.
I agree.
We have Abdul next.
Yeah, with all this, this idea is great, but I think there is some kind of specification that we need to make here. In this country, there is a lot of filth. People can just be walking on the roadside, they eat anything, and they drop the litter anywhere they want to drop it. They just throw it away as if there's, nobody cares about the sanitation of their country. That is what is happening here. One. Two, see, people can just branch into any nearby woods or bush, and then they shit all over the place without necessarily going to the toilet to do it. They just, branch aside. They could just come behind your house and then they shit and, any vantage area, and they go, is cool. Another one, here, hunting is so much embraced here. Hunting is so much embraced here. Ducks, deers, and all the other animals that are almost found in the bush, they are all hunted. But I've seen in the United States, I've seen in documentaries, some in news, and people even get arrested and prosecuted just for for treating animals badly. I mean, for abandoning a little puppet, people get arrested for that. Just for abandoning the puppet outside the road and then going away, not eating it or killing it to eat. I have seen. I have a friend in Colorado, Denver, and she was talking to me about these dark bears, how they are there and the state is responsible for them, protecting them, and you cannot eat them. And I was like, if it was here in Ghana, come on, all these bears, they will be gone. People will hunt them and eat them up. It is the culture here. You understand? So that doesn't mean that if I get to the United States, nobody, it is meanwhile in over there, it is part of your culture not to eat those animals. You don't eat the dogs. You don't you don't whip the dogs. You don't hurt them. You don't kill them, and you don't litter the place like that. You have a proper way of waste disposal. You have a proper way of defecation. You don't just go anywhere and defecate. You don't have open defecation. And if I come, because it is my culture here, we do it because once you are doing it, whether it is accepted or not, it is part of your life. And once it is part, it is your culture. So it doesn't mean that if I come to the United States, the people there, because they shouldn't impose their culture on me, they should allow me to practice my culture to such an extent that it harms their culture. I should be allowed to practice my culture as long as it doesn't harm another people's culture. You get that? In my culture, a man is allowed, you can marry as many wives as you want. if there is a particular tribe here, if you go to greet the king, no matter how well dressed you are, no matter how fine dressed you are, you have to lie down on the ground. You have to lie down just like this to greet the king. You have to lie, even when the president comes here, the president of this whole country, if he comes, he lies down to greet the king. That is the culture there. You don't come and you say they are imposing their culture on you. You know, you are allowed to do what you want. You know, you can practice your culture. You can go and travel and carry your culture along, practice it, as long as it doesn't what put other people in danger. We have a cultural practice, a cultural festival here we call Fire Festival. When it is time, you will see people lighting torches, fire, and running with fire and singing and jubilating all over the streets with fire. People will really be playing with fire, just like when they are playing football and people are so enthused and happily engaging in it. It is happening here. It doesn't mean when we come to the United States, and because we are there and we are allowed to practice our culture and all that, we should all of a sudden start, our fire festival and, going around with the fire and all that. We will get arrested for disturbing maybe public peace and not making noise and all that. It's our culture. We can practice it as long as it doesn't put other people in danger, as long as it doesn't harm the culture of other people. That is, should I call it cultural relativity or culture? We should accept each other's culture. I'm summing up. I can practice my culture as long as it doesn't what? It doesn't harm other people. You understand? As long as it doesn't harm other people, I can do that. I don't know, maybe in some cultures, incest is allowed, incest, where a child is having sex with their mother or a mother having sex with the child. But in other cultures, it's highly prohibited. So once certain, you can't come into that culture and you do it. Even if you are going to do it, it should not be seen. It should not be something that you come up publicly to talk about it. Because it's like you are trying to infiltrate the culture of some other people, and that is why people will come out against it. So I think we need this idea is nice. People should not try to impose their culture on other people. Like you come to Ghana and we tell you in this country, in the morning we eat this for breakfast, in the afternoon we eat this for lunch, and then in the night we eat this for dinner. So you have to follow that, and we shouldn't impose that culture on you. But whatever you are eating should not be something that is causing. It shouldn't harm our culture. It shouldn't harm our way of life. I yield the floor.
So that last point reminds me, not to pick on Islam again, but there are countries where they fast during the day. What is it, Ramadan? I think they fast during the day. They only eat like at sundown, and so you're not allowed to eat outside because it upsets other people. Well, that's your damn problem. You decided to not eat during the day. You live with that, maybe that's a real test of your faith, is to have to look at other people eating. You should be proud of that,
This happened to me, by the way.
Yeah.
I have eaten during the day and I was fucked.
But Abdul brings up another good point, like this whole defecation thing. I mean, in a sense, it's natural for people to just, go pick a tree and pee on it. Well, for men, I don't know. For women, it's more difficult, but we impose those standards. But those are really standards of sanitation, not, like, if you should be able to just, outside of the city limits or whatever is the sanit, like wherever you are in kind of like nature, you should be able to just go. Like I said, I think we should just have nudity, as long as you're not using like public facilities, like, like the train or the subway. You should be able to walk around the street naked. But then the other thing that this relates to, I do want to come back to the first point of this idea, because it talks about sexuality, and sexuality is a big one, because, and this also relates to a lot of religions, how they approach this. So it is kind of and religions in general, not just Islam, like, tend to be have restrictions on this. Because I think somebody was talking about religions relating to preferences. I wanted to argue the point that there are different cultures, you know, within, for example, within the US, there's like a club culture, or, you know, like a party culture, and there is a family culture, you know, and these people are different, and usually they belong to the same families, but they do create different culture. Well, I'm trying to share the screen here. We must recognize that different cultures are more or less suitable to different people based on their psychological dispositions. Some people just have, there's a culture, there's a whole industry providing to people who want to live a certain life. They want to go out every night and get laid or something, just meet new people and, you know, partying and, you know, whatever, just, you know, do all those things, you know, are very casual with physical intimacy, whereas other people are more restrained about that, and they are more oriented around building a family. And there is, and in the United States, I mean, I know in a lot of different places, but there is a lot of this backlash against people who, you know, by let's say like the family oriented culture, you know, you know, they want to close down clubs, or I can't think of good examples right now, but yeah, but they you know, they're like, oh, it's bad for the children. Well, maybe the children want to do that stuff. Maybe your children want to go out and fuck around. Maybe they don't give a shit about your family values. And, you know, maybe they want to be prostitutes, the sex workers, right? And other people are like, no, never, my children, my family. Well, those types of attitudes, those personal dispositions, they do create different cultures. There are people who live in those environments, and they want to live in those environments, and they're fine with that. Some people don't ever want to get married. They just, you know, and then there's the, you know, like the gay culture versus the straight culture. I can't really speak to the differences. I'm not that familiar with it, but from my understanding is that those cultures are more promiscuous, and largely that has to do with the lower risk of pregnancy and the lower responsibilities that are associated with that. You know, if those people like it, if they enjoy it, you know, that's good for them. It's, you know, deal with your problems. You want to concern yourself with avoiding unwanted pregnancies. Well, that's your thing, but other people want to party, and you got to respect that in a multicultural society. I yield the floor. And we have JK next.
All right. This is a little bit funny. I will share from my personal experience as well, if you all don't mind. If at all, like, we have to say that, as I mentioned before, right, religions are always dogmatic, whatever, like, if you notice it, like within Christianity, right, if I have to attack, I will attack Christianity first than any other religion. Historically speaking, they did the most damage than anybody else, and that's how, like, they got to this level. And all over the world, right, why Christianity is majority is like religion as such, they want to dominate. So that is how, like, it has evolved over centuries. And even within Christianity, you can see like Mormonism, evangelicals, Catholics, and different sects, Baptists, they all have different versions of it. And to others' point, mentioning it on infringing on the cultures and your sexuality, they take control it. So that's how, like, I see that, like, the root cause of all evil is religion. So no matter what. And to Ramsey's point, it's personal experience and your perception about religion and how you get interacted with those peoples. I'll be honest with you, I lived in the most Islamic state, right? I've visited Afghanistan and even Middle East, and I lived for 4-5 years in Dubai. You will be surprised, right? with the examples you all gave, right, during the month of Ramadan, I don't find any offense. I do have Muslim friends. Everybody is nice, right? As long as you infringe on their culture and you start a different thing, right? There is a law in that country. It's an Islamic state. And if you adhere to those things, you will not have any trouble with that. And eating outside during the Ramadan, they don't mind, as long as like you provoke them or do a show off and create trouble, right? Like drinking liquor is banned, but all the Westerners, they go on the pubs and they get secretly and they get high. All that is happening over there. It's not that it is not happening over there. Even with the strongest uh, uh, not defending Islam, right? Their culture itself has been built upon, right? They do have that belief, peace be upon you. And it's like all the religions teaches good, but the human, right? The humans have the problem. Like, for example, each individual have their own culture, right? In your family, you are brought up with your own family. That is your culture. And if you agree with other families, then it becomes a bigger group. That is not possible. If you look an example in Indian subcontinent, they have this caste system. There are thousands of castes. Like each family will have their own gods. They have their own practices. So that is the only solution or options it might look like to have a pluralistic or multicultural options. But even that was tried out for centuries. And when different religious ideologies and ideas, like we discuss about ideas, right? So similarly there, when you try to impose different ideas and having it as a universal idea, everybody has to follow it, then only you will fit into this group. That is where we had started fighting for various things like equality, women rights, and all those things. And that is even got entangled into our system of governing ourselves as such as the law. And that's where like some of the Islamic countries, like they declare themselves as Muslim states, and you either accept it or not. One typical example, right? What the Singapore lady, like she mentioned that, and similar to it, like economically, like a smaller countries can progress. Dubai being an Islamic state, it become a wealthy nation. And if you notice it, 70% of the populations are non-immigrants who are not citizens of that country, right? And all those coming from Asian countries and mainly from Indian subcontinent, they do have multiculturalism. They don't have any issues. They do have temples over there, churches over there. So it's of the power struggle that creates these problems within these religious group. And I don't think multiculturalism will be a solution for this. That's my take on. Again, thank you. I'll yield the floor.
We have Lois next, please.
Thank you. So I would like to challenge the idea that religion is always dogmatic. And we could ask, is the religion of the Cherokees dogmatic? Has that ever been shown to be dogmatic? What about the religion of the Hawaiians, the native Hawaiians, before the Christian missionaries came? Were they dogmatic about their religion? The other thing is religion. Our concept of religion came about in the modern era. And for most of human history, religion was so deeply intertwined in culture that there wasn't a separate word for it. And then going back to Cherokees and Hawaiians, I didn't express agreement with Cesari's idea because I think sometimes it is important for parents to transmit their culture to their children. For example, the Hawaiian culture, the native Hawaiian culture was really suffering and almost became extinct, especially when laws came forbidding hula dancing and things like that. Thankfully, there has been a revival in recent years, and they're teaching the Hawaiian language in the schools again. I think it's a good thing to remember and pass on your culture, and to intentionally do that, especially when you're in an environment when it might be lost. I also remember a TV series, which I highly recommend. It's called Centennial. And in that series, there was a First Nation, I don't remember the name of it, but it was in Canada. And these people were victims of colonization, and their numbers were dwindling. And a mother told her daughter a story from her culture, and the mother was about to die, and she said to her daughter, "You have to remember this story and you have to pass it on," because she knew that their way of life, their culture, was in danger of being forgotten forever. So that's why I have some reservations on agreeing with the idea. I also don't agree that a single culture society is always totalitarian. Cesare said that earlier as well. And I think we need to distinguish the different types and lenses of culture. You can have a national culture, you can have subcultures, you can have a culture in a family, within a national culture, and so on and so forth. And I think that to some degree, having a single culture in a nation is necessary and useful and beneficial. And I can go back to the examples provided earlier about standards of sanitation. I remember when I was a child, another student was from another country, and they just threw all of their garbage in their yard. And the neighbors were very concerned because that's not how we do things in the United States. We don't throw our garbage in our yard. And it was an example of the necessity of adapting to a new culture when you move to a new nation. I view nations sort of like families. And if you are an immigrant to a new nation, it's kind of like being adopted into a new family, where you as a person, an adopted person, should and can retain beliefs and practices from their native nation, but they also need to adapt to the way things are done in the new place. So I think that is all I wanted to say for now. I yield the floor.
Who is next? Is it Ramses now? Sorry,
Yeah, so we have Ramses, Ben, and then Cesare. And now we have Tang as well. So Ramses, Ben, Cesare, Tang. Let me write that. By the way, if you scroll down, you'll find me keeping tracking.
Thank you so much for that, Ramses.
Non c'è problema.
Welcome, Natalie. Okay, Ramses?
Yep. So JK, I invite you to go to one of the Arab countries and just try to drink water during the day in Ramadan in public. It's like, for example, in Egypt, it is not forbidden by law.
Ramsey, to your point, I have done that. And I lived in Dubai for 5 years. And during the Ramadan period, we have done that. I have even eaten outside.
Perfect. But I just want to tell you something, okay? Emirates, United Arab Emirates is really progressive compared to some other shitty places like Egypt, for example, and other places. And this only because of religion. Again, okay, I was really hated because I was very thirsty and I drank water in front of my colleagues at college. And they actually accused me that I'm doing a shit show in order to show them that I'm not Muslim or whatever. So even if I'm doing a shit show, what is wrong with that? Like, what is wrong with drinking water in public in order to let people know that you have the right to drink the fucking water? And Daniel already said that this is a fucking water planet. Right? Like, guys, come on, right? So this is a problem here, JK. If you don't have rules that protect people's freedoms and minority, bullies are gonna use religion in order to bully you and control your behavior. And that's why when we talk about multiculturalism, we are talking about this. You are Muslim, you fast, okay, we appreciate that, but don't bully or cause harm to other people because, or even discriminate them, or even deal with them differently because they drink in public. I'm joining a lot of Facebook groups, and one of the Facebook groups, which is for Moroccans in Canada, okay, it's on Quebec. One of the people was asking if it is possible to ask the politicians, the liberals, to pass a law to prevent people from eating or drinking in public in Ramadan in order to respect Muslims in Canada. Okay, this is so fucking stupid. And that's what we are talking about here, JK. We're not talking about mainstream people. We are talking about a stupid minority that is trying to control people based on religion, because religion is not protective. Okay, religion doesn't have a constitution that protects you. And if you just let these people do what they want, it's gonna turn in very badly. And for example, as a gay person who came from Egypt, I can like speak for hours about how this has been used against me in many places. Okay, and it was terrible. And finally, I agree with most of what we have said, Lois, of course. I think Abrahamic religions are the most problematic ones because they are based on Judaism, which is for Israel, as I mentioned before. It's about Israeli culture and their gods, etc. Egyptian religion, for example, didn't have such problems. But and of course, Egyptians and Hellenism. Okay, so when Hellenism entered Israel, for example, it was a big trouble for Jewish people because they cannot accept such an open culture. And finally, just as a last word, every culture has its pros and cons. Okay, as long as you are not shitting on my door, just like what Abdul had already said. And that's it for me.
Ben, please, you're next. And we have 6 minutes till closing remarks, just to let everybody know.
Yeah, I actually have to go right after this. So sorry about that. I'll say bye after. But in terms of this idea, I don't think I have any problem with multiculturalism, and I don't disagree with anything like Ramses is saying. My only disagreement really is the way this idea is structured. It's just overly conflationary, and it's kind of biased. So I just don't like the structure of it. Like, if you could just say something like, do not impose your culture on others, I would find that much simpler and much easier to debate. I don't see why it has to be so complicated and include all this other stuff that just makes it. I don't know if anyone here is actually disagreeing with it because it's so complicated. But I think JK maybe is disagreeing with it. My disagreement is mainly on the structure of it. Anyways, I have to go now. So thanks for the meeting, and I'll see you, I guess, next time I'm here, possibly next week.
Ben, since I'm going next, I just want to say I'd like to see your version of a recipe for a multicultural society. I mean,
Yeah, it would just be do not impose your culture on others.
that, you know, include that and see which one of those ideas gets the most support. I love it. Thanks for joining us, and yeah, please do include that. That could very well be a good competing idea. So yeah, and you know, maybe that's the one that people will support more, or maybe people will support both. Maybe I'd support that idea. You know, yeah, if you want to break it up into 3 different sections, yeah, you could do that, and maybe just take up 3 spaces, or maybe some people will find it more useful to consolidate them all into one. So all of those things are on the table, but it's just somebody has to take the lead for, you know, on it and just do it. And then try to get other people to, you know, to jump on board with that proposition. But anyways, I know you got to get going, so thanks for hanging on. One thing I wanted to say was that I appreciate the point that Lois brought up about each one, like culture existing at different levels, a national culture, a regional culture, a family culture, because that's true. We also have our own culture here at Citizen Assembly. Like, this is a culture that we are creating. So yeah, all those things exist, and you can be a part of different cultures that even have contradictory practices. You can, you know, you might function in this one culture at this time, but then on other days you go to these other meetings and you do things differently. So it makes sense. So also, I wanted to clarify something. I don't think that the idea doesn't mean that parents should be prevented from passing on their culture to their children. Of course they should be passing on. They should be. That's how really most of the culture that we really pick up. But at the same time, just like they're doing it in Singapore, those children should have exposure to other cultures. And, you know, even if it's just like 5% or 1% of your time, if it's spent so that you know that there are other cultures. Because one part of that culture is, I forgot who I was, it might have been with you, Lois, that I was having this discussion. It might have been Ramses, I can't remember. Talking about, you know, the difference that just a little bit of information can make. Because, for example, if you are a gay person being raised in like a very, let's say, family-oriented culture that's against and religious based and opposing to homosexuality, but you're homosexual, you just don't know it, you're just struggling with that. Just simply being exposed to a gay culture, being like, oh, wait a minute, there's actually a whole community of people who are fine with the way they are. They're different. They're attracted to the same sex. It's okay. They're actually living and they have a culture and they're happy in it. So just that little bit of information can change someone's life. That's why I think it's really important for children to have that exposure, despite of the fact that their parents are teaching them something else. And yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Yeah. Okay. I yield the floor. Who's next? We have. What was I the last
Tang
one?
is next. Tang is next.
Tang. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
I just want to add one point. The United States is big enough that you can have communities like the Amish and the Mormons. They live by themselves. They do everything by themselves. They are isolationists. And they're pretty happy and they're pretty peaceful. So the United States is big enough to have isolationist religion as well. So it can encompass a lot of types of religious freedom.
Is that it, Tang? Just,
yeah.
Thank you. So we are out of time. It's time for closing remarks. Closing remarks are the opportunity for everyone to get their last word in. Everyone has a chance to speak. And we have about 2 minutes per person. So who would like to lead us through closing remarks? JK, would you be willing to lead us through closing remarks?
Cesare Thomas Robinson raised his hand.
Oh, did he?
No.
Oh,
No, I don't want to, and I did not raise my hand for anything.
oh, okay.
Yes,
Must
thank
be
you, Tang.
a glitch on the screen. So, JK, would you like to lead us through closing remarks? I don't know if you did that last time. I don't think you did, actually, but I'd like to give you a chance.
Yeah, let me try it out. And so I go last, right? Is that how it works, or somebody else?
You can go last. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Let's pick with
Actually,
Tom.
quick correction. Technically, the presenter should go last, so I should go last. So, but yeah.
Okay, you
go
are the
second to
presenter
last.
for this one.
You go second to last.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So should I pick someone and
Yeah, just pick people.
monitor 2 minutes? Oh, okay. Let's go with Tom.
Okay, I think I heard my name, Paul. Oh boy, well, I'm an easy one to start out with because these philosophical ideas bore me to tears for the most part. So I confine my comments to the chat. Yes, I'm in agreement with multiculturalism. I think Canada does a pretty good job of it, better than the United States. That's it for me.
Okay, that was quick. All right, let's move on to Tang.
Yeah, hi everyone. Interesting discussion. My take on multiculturalism is one that it grows out of voluntarism and the ability to associate and relocate freely into intentional communities. I think that's going to be the only way we'll probably have peace is when we have little Dunbar number-sized communities of 150 or so that are able to set up their own self-sufficient, resilient communities, and becoming multi-planetary will be a large part of it if we survive the Great Filter. I yield the floor. Thanks again.
All right, thank you, Dan. Nathaniel, Natalie, sorry. Are you there? All right.
Hey,
Maybe
Natalie,
you can come back.
can you hear us? No, go ahead, JK.
Yeah, maybe let's move on. Luis, I got you. You're trying to hide.
Oh, I wasn't fast enough. I'm just joking around. All right. So I think this was a good discussion. And in several assemblies, we do sometimes go off topic a little bit, but it's always at least tangentially related to the main topic. And I find it satisfying either way, as long as people are sharing their perspectives and allowing people to speak, etc. So I do agree with the aspect of children having exposure to other cultures, as well as the intentional instilling of a culture. I think both can be done, and it's healthy for both to be done. And I hope that when the child grows up, they can decide for themselves what kind of person they want to be as an adult. Oh yeah, and also as a child, but you know, more and more as they grow older. Also, the idea of not imposing your culture on others, I agree with with the exception of some basic necessary things. If an immigrant is going from one country to another, there are certain standards and things that they need to do as part of being part of a new culture. But it should be pretty limited and basic, and beyond that, other ways of life should be respected. I think that imposing one's culture on a different country, a different nation, is a huge no-no. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Tang?
Well, although this topic is quite complicated, I find it very interesting because I don't know a lot of things. I come from Singapore, which is a small country, and it's quite simple actually for us. Like Abdul Rahman's case is very complicated. Ramsey's experiences are very complicated. So I welcome this opportunity to learn from all of you.
All right, thank you. Natalie, if you are there, last chance. 1, 2, 3, gone. Okay, Francis, that's your turn.
Sure, thank you, JK. You know what, Cesare, I have never been open to my sexuality before I was exposed to the gay community. Like, I really agree with what you have said. When I was young, I asked my family to subscribe to the internet. And then I discovered Wikipedia. Okay, and then I discovered homosexuality on Wikipedia. And I was like, what? So it's normal, like, and then I was shocked when they said that homosexuality even exists among animals. And I was like, oh my goodness, so even animals do it, so why don't I? And since then I became overly gay. So I have been exposed to animals through Wikipedia. Can you see how it happens? So yeah, I would say that multiculturalism is great. It is just not applicable in many Islamic countries and in many other countries. Singapore is one of the really progressive countries. Like I have always been looking to Singapore, for example, as a leading example, for how a country can progress very quickly like that. Japan and many Asian countries are so progressive as well. Canada is a leading example in multiculturalism as well. I think we can learn from all these examples, and at the same time learn from the bad examples in order to avoid being like them. That's why I really appreciate Abdul's input, and I think we are able to turn North America into it's already multicultural, but we are talking about the extreme of multiculturalism, where nobody feels discriminated against because they came from different culture. Thank you, everyone. It was really a nice topic, Cesare. Thank you for bringing things up.
All right, thank you, Ramses. And I think it's my turn, and I empathy with you. Like, thank you for being open and coming up. I really didn't know that. Like, I can't imagine. So right now, I can make assumptions and say things, but then it's your prerogative, like, to choose your sexuality, and that is where the religions have struggled. And my assumption is, like, that is why you have been abused or misused by the others who doesn't know anything about their own Islamic religion, have treated you for water consumption and other things. So it is not directly correlated. That's how people react and behave. And that kind of strongly goes into your mind, having a hatred for that religions. So that's exactly what we all do it. Like, even with a multicultural example with billions of people in India, right? You cannot imagine how complex and complicated over there. And even there, like, the Islam is a minority, and they have this struggle. Now Hindu nationalism is coming up, and they have that lynching mob, like people, if you they worship cow as a god, and still majority of the Hindus also export and eat cow, right? Within your food habits, culture is so ingrained in our body. It's not that easier for us to understand. That's why like everybody is saying like, oh, it's complicated and it's that easy to have multiculturalism. No, it's not. Multiculturalism, if you go subscribe to that, it creates much more further complex environment, and you yourself will struggle within your own religion and within your own family. Like I just want to put a simple example, like if you have your partner, right, or no, husband or wife, and each one of you have different religious practice, or your kids are going to have their own religion, just imagine how the talk will be on the dining table, right? So uh, that's not possible, right? Family is the smallest unit, and from that every other groups evolves. That is where like people try to impose on a commonalities and have one single culture. So we are easily rejecting these ideas and jumping onto the other board, but it's not easy. Like even with Ramses, right, how hard it will be for him to come out openly as a gay or les or transgender and communicate that to their family. Nobody will accept that. Like they will say like, no, you are sexually fine, you just do this, get married, everything will be all right. So that is how we just have to evolve. And definitely I do agree that like pluralism is agreeable for everyone, as long as we don't infringe on others freedom. We can coexist and we can create a better societies. And again, bringing up this topic for West, like I thank you everyone, and it's a nice discussion. I yield the floor and passing on to Cesare to make the final comment. Thank you.
Thank you for leading us through the closing remarks, JK. Really appreciate that. It always helps to have the burden lifted by others. Thank you everyone for joining us today for this interesting discussion. There's only so much that we can really resolve here. A lot of this is just resolving it for ourselves. I think culture to me is essentially just like a framework of relaying information. The point is, it's supposed to be a bunch of shortcuts that are supposed to make your life easier, to help you find the solutions that you need faster. And if your work, it presumes that if you work within that framework, then you can just get to the information you want quicker and your problems will be solved. But so really the best thing, so it to me, it's all about information sharing when it like the bottom line. And so just sharing information about culture, I think that in itself is how we do the work. But then it also goes to just including other people in your cultural practices, just sharing your culture with others, not so much to convert them, but just kind of, I mean, sure, maybe there's a little bit of a conversion thing, but no, it's just have fun like practicing your culture just with new people, and just like see what it's like to share your culture with others, not really to convince them, but just to see how you interact, how you interface. And I think that makes, but at the same time trying to appreciate their culture and watch them learn about your culture. I think that's and then that really, like, the simplest example of that is just, like if you have, I don't know, coming from a Polish culture, trying Mexican food, or or bringing a Mexican to your home and feeding them Polish food, that type of thing. Even that basic thing is an interesting cultural comparison. Or going to, I don't know, going to one of their activities, maybe going to a mosque, or going to a gay club, or going to a gay mosque, yeah. So no, anyways, it's just I think it's good for us to share this information. So if anyone has a better idea, I'd like to hear it. And maybe this does need to be broken down, maybe it doesn't, but if someone has a better idea for a multicultural society, please introduce it and share it. I can't wait till this show is up on YouTube And so I can link it under the idea, so that other people that we're sharing this idea with can also have access to the discussion that we had. That's all I have for right now for closing remarks, except, oh yeah, Citizen Assembly Women on Sunday. So you'll find the meeting in Igora. Leadership Academy is tomorrow. And that's it for my closing remarks and final notes. And this meeting is officially adjourned.